first primates evolved 66 million years ago, around the turn of the Cretaceous into the early Paleocene. Simian primates split off from more basal prosimian primates such as tarsiers and strepsirrhines around 53 million years ago. The first apes evolved from monkeys 20 million years ago. The primate order is incredibly diverse. In fact, it is the fourth largest order of mammals. Primates can be divided into two major categories, though. Strepsirrhines, or the more basal primates, such as lemurs, lorises, and bush babies, and simians, which are the more derived primates, such as monkeys and apes. Strepsirrhine primates tend to have more traditional mammalian features, such as a wet nose, are mostly nocturnal, and a muzzle. However, they also have derived features of their own. Their lower incisors form a tooth comb which they use to groom. Strepsirrhines also are heavily reliant on a scent-based form of communication. Also, most Strepsirrhine primates have a second pseudotongue which they use to groom themselves. Simian primates, on the other hand, have a dry nose. They have a much larger brain capacity. Most of them are diurnal, typically have a flat face, and most of them tend to be pretty social. They have a more diverse set of forms of communications, such as visual and hearing, and they tend to be way more intelligent. The group simians itself can be broken down into two smaller sections: monkeys and apes. Monkeys typically have smaller heads with smaller brains, as opposed to apes who have a much larger head and a larger brain compared to the body size. Most monkey species have a tail. However, there are some exceptions, particularly those who live in colder climates. Apes, however, completely lack tails altogether. Most monkeys have a far more narrow chest as opposed to apes, whose chests are wider. The arm and leg length on monkeys are pretty uniform, as opposed to apes. Most apes have longer arms than they have legs, with the exception of humans who have longer legs than they have arms. Most monkeys jump from tree to tree, as opposed to apes, who swing from tree to tree using a form of movement called branchiation. Monkeys typically walk on the palms of their hands, as opposed to apes, who typically walk using their knuckles. The superfamily Hominoidea is composed of two families: Hylobatidae, the lesser apes, and Hominidae, the great apes. Orangutans belong to the Hominidae family, along with chimps, gorillas, bonobos, and humans. The subfamily Pygmaeus is the Asiatic groups of great apes. There were many fossil genuses within this subfamily. However, Pongus, the orangutan genus, is the only surviving genus in this group. Pongo contains three species: the Borneo, Sumatran, and Tapanuli orangutan. One of the earliest primate ancestors was Purgatorius, a small tree shrew-like animal which lived 66 million years ago. Algirapithecus serves as a link between the more advanced simian primates and the more basal Strepsirrhine lemur-like primates. This animal lived about 50 million years ago. Egyptopithecus was one of the first true monkeys. It lived approximately 38 million years ago in what is currently modern-day northern Africa. The earliest ape known from the fossil record was Proconsul, which lived about 21 million years ago. Scyphopithecus was a genus of great ape, native to southern Asia. It lived about 12 million years ago. It is likely the ancestor to modern orangutans, as it's one of the first great apes found outside of Africa.
Bornean orangutans have dark orange red hair that distinguishes them from Sumatran orangutans, who are smaller and have light-colored coats. Bornean orangutans also have long arms, roughly a 7-foot wingspan, throat pouches, and males have cheek pads. Male orangutans are about 38 inches tall and 191 pounds, while female orangutans are 30 inches tall and 81 pounds on average. Unlike other great apes, Bornean orangutans walk on their fists rather than their knuckles. Male orangutans tend to be intolerant to other males, unsocial, and aggressive, sometimes leading to physical fights or death. Female orangutans tend to be semi-social, traveling with one or two young and possibly an adolescent of the species. Interaction is mainly limited to sexual behaviors, and males will abandon the female for a few days after she becomes pregnant.
Borneo orangutan is distributed across the island of Borneo. They live in trees and will rarely go to the ground. The Borneo orangutan live in primarily old-growth forests and will migrate depending on the availability of a food source. These animals inhabit tropical rainforests at lower elevations and aren't usually seen above an elevation of 1,000 meters. There are three subspecies within the Borneo orangutan species: the northwestern Bornean orangutan, the northeastern Borneo orangutan, which is the smallest of the three, and the southern Borneo orangutan, which is the largest. Habitat loss is a major component of the reason why we are seeing a reduction in the Borneo orangutan populations. A female orangutan requires 350 to 680 hectares of suitable habitat, while a male requires 650 to 700 hectares of unbroken tracts of land. Conversion of high conservation value areas and their ultimate replacement with palm oil plantations has resulted in a reduction of habitat for 80 to 90% of species, many of which are endemic or threatened in Borneo. Orangutan habitat has declined 39% between 1992 and 2002. As seen in the figure on the right in section D, anywhere there is color besides the dark green is areas that are at risk for being logged or torn down, which coincide with orangutan habitat. The Borneo orangutan is listed on the IUCN Red List as critically endangered. Several thousand individuals are killed every year for meat consumption in local villages as a way to mitigate conflict. The habitat of 26,200 out of approximately 100,000 Bornean orangutans left could be lost by 2030s, which equates to roughly 25% of the total population. The largest immediate conservation gains could come from curbing deforestation around plantation landscapes through efforts such as zero deforestation pledges, sustainability certification, and ecosystem restoration, and a halt on clearing land could help this.
Food habits. Borneo orangutans feed mostly on a variety of fruits, which make up 60% of their diet, including lychees, mangosteens, mangoes, and figs. They also feed on leaves, roots, insects, soil in a process called geophagy, vines, bird eggs, barks, flowers, and occasionally small vertebrates. Borneo orangutans have been known to migrate depending on fruit availability. They gain water from fruits and the holes within trees. Certain compounds in soils are thought to counteract some of the toxic and acidic foods that the apes consume. Orangutans are known to eat over 400 different types of foods.
Borneo orangutans have a gestation period of 9 months. At around 12 months, the baby begins to wander and explore close to mother. By age 6, they spend 50% of their time near their mom, and by 8 years old, they are fully separated from their mom. Sexual maturity varies between sexes. Males reach maturity by 8 to 10 years in captivity. Females reach maturity by 10 to 15 years. Courtship must occur before a female becomes pregnant. Females will typically only have 4 to 5 offspring in their lifetime. Borneo orangutans have a lifespan of 45 to 50 years. Females stay close to their mothers as males establish new ranges away from home at around 8 years old. There's a sub-adult wandering stage with males where they find groups of other young males to establish a range with. Females have an interbirth interval that lasts 8 years, meaning they only have one offspring every 8 years. Between the ages of 1 to 6, the farthest a baby goes from its mother is 20 meters. This makes it difficult for the mother to reproduce in the 8-year interval, as her time is spent majority with the baby. It takes 8 to 15 years for males and females to reach maturity. This makes it difficult to recover numbers, as both birthing intervals and years between maturity is extensively long.
Special topics. Their ecological niche is so essential that they were even given the name gardeners of the forest. Not only do they help distribute small seeds from the fruits they eat, they disperse large seeds that smaller animals aren't able to disperse. Because orangutans can grow to be so big, the fully fledged adults are limited on their movement on trees. Only the younger orangutans are capable of brachiation, or arm swinging, between trees. Orangutans have opposable big toes that they use to grasp onto branches or grab fruit, almost like another set of hands. But funnily enough, they cannot use their thumbs. Instead, they hold their fruit between their palm and their fingers. Orangutans also have a main form of communication known as the long call. It lasts 1 to 2 minutes, and only flanged males can produce this call. It can be heard several kilometers away. They use this superpower to make themselves known to mates and scare off submales. The name orangutan is Malayan for man of the forest. Orangutans share 97% of their DNA with humans, and additionally, orangutans show laughter-like vocalizations when wrestling, play fighting, chasing, or tickling. Last but not least, orangutans have a wide variety of different tool use applications. They use sticks to fish insects out of logs or as a foundation for their beds. They'll cleverly stick longer branches into bodies of water so as to gauge how deep the water is. One orangutan was even documented using sticks to spear fish out of water. Leaves are used as a padding between the branches of their beds, and if large enough, can serve as an umbrella on a rainy day. Orangutans will also make sponges out of pulp and leaves to collect water or even drink out of pitcher plants if they can find them.